You know, I noticed on the schedule that I'm supposed to be finished at 6:15, so I'm going to do the best that I can to take 20 minutes worth of remarks and get us back on schedule. So first of all, thank you, Bruce, very much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. I was here last year. I thought it was a very interesting and creative opportunity, not just for those who presented their best ideas, and I thought there were a lot of good ideas, but I think it helped the judges to understand a little bit more about the process of developing these kind of ideas at PACE's program. And I'm from IBM. No PowerPoint tonight. No electronics, no nothing, just me. I thought a little bit about this, and first of all, I want to congratulate all the people who are going to be presenting your ideas. Did a terrific job. We're looking forward to hearing them. That's what this is about. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on introductory remarks, and we want to get very much to the people who have, really contributed the most for this evening. I'm also delighted to be at an event with Harold Levy, who did a really terrific job as Chancellor of Schools. There aren't a whole lot of people who really know what's involved in being a schools chancellor and leading a school system, the largest in the United States, with all kinds of difficulties. But I will say one thing. He was chancellor and I was deputy chancellor when there was a Board of Education. And that made it 10 times more difficult than it is today. That was a 7-member board appointed by 5 different elected officials. So if you need an entrepreneurial solution to something, that's a problem that really cries for entrepreneurial solutions. Let me tell you a little bit about IBM. I hope I don't need to tell you a lot, but we are an entrepreneurial company, although a very big company. And we've been in business for 100 years. And there's not a lot of businesses that can say they've been in business for 100 years, especially a company that's involved in innovation and technology. We started off making time clocks and timekeeping devices and moved on from that to things a lot more pedestrian than what we do today, things like typewriters and things like that, and have moved on to computers and software and services and a lot of things that are creative and innovative. Some people would think that a big company with 400,000 employees doing business in 170 different countries is the antithesis of entrepreneurship. But I think to stay in business for 100 years and as a big company, you really have to be committed to change. Because if you do things the same old way, you would be out of business in the current business climate. So you have to think differently. The pace of change is quick. And those are the kinds of things that are particularly important to entrepreneurs. One of the things that we do that demonstrates support for new ideas, innovation, and entrepreneurship is we allocate each year $6 billion for IBM research laboratories around the world, and that's more than any other company on the planet. And I think the commitment to research and innovation through technical research is particularly important. Over the history of the company, it's led to a couple of things that were fairly innovative, like the space shot. When President Kennedy made his speech about putting a man on the moon, he turned to NASA. They'd never built a rocket. They didn't have the engineering talent to be able to do that. And actually, several hundred IBM scientists and engineers moved into NASA, and it was a very successful effort. Earlier on, during the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, we had the first woman cabinet member, Frances Perkins. They passed Social Security. The federal government had never managed anything quite like Social Security, and the same thing as they turned to the private sector. A group of people came in from IBM and set up the information management systems for Social Security. So entrepreneurship and large companies is not necessarily something that is different from one another. And as innovators and entrepreneurs, I would suggest that potentially working with big companies, maybe not at this stage of your idea development, but very soon thereafter, might be a way to move your idea from idea into action. And large companies do have a great opportunity, and I think a great responsibility, to support entrepreneurial activity and entrepreneurship development. And a couple of things that we do is, one, working with the World Bank, we created something we call the SME Toolkit. I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to take a look at it. That's smetoolkit.org. It's a free site on the web for all small businesses, all entrepreneurs. It has 5 million users. It's in 17 different languages, customized for 30 different countries, and particularly important because, number one, it's free, and number two, it has some of the best business development and management and planning tools for a small business, because we got some of the best talent to do that. And the second thing is about how businesses buy goods and services from companies. We have a $40 billion supply chain, and one of the things that we can do to support entrepreneurial development is to do more business with small companies. And in looking at the opportunity to develop and grow jobs in the United States, the best way to do that is to give small businesses and small companies an opportunity to become suppliers to large companies. Last year, we put together an initiative we call Supplier Connection. That's another free site. And we pulled together 7 large companies whose combined supply chain spending is about $170 billion a year, and created one site on the web for small businesses to become a supplier to all those companies. If you look at the research, if a small company becomes a supplier to a large company, within 2 years they double their employee base. On average, that went from 3 employees to 6, and they increased their revenues 175%. So if we're looking to support small business, support small entrepreneurs, grow jobs, and do something about a lagging economy, we couldn't do anything more successful than to make it easier for small businesses to become suppliers to large companies, goods and or services in a variety of ways. Now, obviously, my job at IBM is about corporate citizenship. It's about making a company a socially responsible company. And that's not different than being a successful business, because if you are a socially responsible company, you have a better chance at recruiting the talent out of business schools like this one and others. There are more students at the Harvard Business School in the Social Enterprise Club than all the other clubs on campus put together. And in terms of recruitment and retention of the best talent, having a strong social responsibility program is key to recruiting and retaining top talent. And I think it's also important because it attracts investment not just from hedge funds, but from socially responsible investment funds that control about $1 trillion worth of assets, and they're available for companies that are strong social enterprises. And business would benefit from having more social entrepreneurs and more people who are entrepreneurial. Society would benefit, the public sector would benefit, and I hope that as the best talent in the business school, not just with the best entrepreneurial ideas, but all the students in the business school would think seriously about playing a role in the broader society. At IBM, we have, as I said, 400,000 employees, 175,000 do regular community service. Over the last 5 years, they did 11 million hours worth of community service, and they're incented to do that with all kinds of financial rewards for them and for the people that they work with. And I think that's what attracts top talent, and I think that that's what makes an innovative business and allows it to be competitive in society. So, you know, I hope that the entrepreneurs, they have good ideas, but I also hope that they learn some lessons from the best companies, large and small. Be innovative, be creative, be subject to change and all those kinds of things, but be true to a common core set of values about the role of business in society. So be ready to change, embrace change, evolve, but also have a commitment to the role that business and entrepreneurship has in society, and that's not just a bottom line responsibility, because the bottom line is achieved by being a socially responsible business. So thank you very much, Bruce. Delighted to be here.
I want to say something about, and perhaps I should have said in the introduction, when I first met Stan, was I had led a group of students, MBA students, to Tanzania on a social entrepreneurship course. And one of the requirements was that everyone kept a blog, and there were some people at IBM that were reading that blog. They were about to launch the IBM Corporate Service Corps, the most competitive program in IBM's 100-year history, where people from around the world apply to go in groups of 10 to a number of different countries, one of which was Tanzania. And the idea is that they go there not primarily for corporate social responsibility, but for leadership training and to train them to think innovatively and entrepreneurially, and for business opportunities. You know, what's the next China or India, in Africa? It's an amazing program. I'd encourage you to take a look at IBM's Corporate Service Corps. The second thing I'd like to very quickly mention is when Stan talked about being 100 years old, we take for granted when companies get that old, they're around. In the Netherlands, they actually add the name Royal to the company once they reach 100 years, like Royal Dutch Shell. But one of the first slides I show my MBA students, I scroll down many, many names of companies that are in the same industry. 100 years ago today, how many automobile manufacturers do you think were operating in the United States? Can you yell it out? Now we have one that hasn't gone bankrupt. 40. 100. Anyone else? 350 automobile manufacturers that produced 1,000 different brands. If you don't believe me, go to the Smithsonian Museum of American History, and there it is in the transportation area. It's amazing. So just because you're 100 years old is no guarantee. You got to constantly think entrepreneurially and innovatively. So with that, we move to the next portion of the program, the pitches.